Welcome back to the channel. I want to show you guys an alternative to using drop shadow with your text that I recently came across. Typically, I would just grab a text plus, and if we move over to shading, under shading elements, number 3 is your black shadow. So it gives you that typical outline that you see. And there's some cool adjustments you can do as far as extending it past the letter line, blurring it out, things like that. Kind of like it with both, but let's shut that off for now. I just want you to notice if we have this background off, you can see that this text gets washed out on this particular image. And if we change this color here, particularly if you get into the brighter colors like whitish, the legibility of the text just gets washed out, especially if you go full brightness like this. You can barely even read this without the drop shadow on. Well, what we did was grab a fusion element, and I just made a ellipse for it and a little bit of a background, which we can control and slide into place and change the composite mode. And this really helps, especially if we switch over to a shot with some footage behind it. If we crank up the background brightness, you can see it kind of adds a little bit of like 3D depth and separates the text versus what's on the screen behind it. So it's a pretty good effect. And if you keep them separate like this, you can click on whatever element you need. So if we needed the text over here, you can see it looks kind of plain. It's sort of conflicting with the lines in the road. If we click on the background and slide this over, as you can see, it looks like it belongs there a little bit more and is sort of blocking out some of the imagery behind it. Now there's another way to do this without having these two separate elements. So you can see we got a text plus here. And if you notice, all these elements have the little star icons indicating that it's Fusion compatible. So here are all your normal text functions for text plus. And if you want to jump over to Fusion, you can highlight your clip and hit Shift 5, or there's a little wand up here on the inspector in the text settings. Click that, that takes you over. And now this is what we're looking at. If we go media out, we have everything combined. Essentially node 1, the template node, is your text node. So you could change it there and enter whatever you want, change your font styling and any of those things. Then what we need to do is merge a background over top of these. So for this background, I just chose right up here, little background, and added that in. So that looks like this. It's basically black, and I dropped down the alpha to like 60. Then to get it to be constrained, I added an ellipse from over here, dropped that down and connected it in. And I just softened the edge and changed the aspect ratio a little bit. It was sort of more of a circle. And you can see it reveals a little bit more of the black background. And that's where this soft edge comes in. So it gets that nice feathering that doesn't interfere with any other things on the screen. I have a transform on here just to size it to the center of the frame a little bit, since this is 720. And then connect that to your media out so it goes back to your edit page. Here's the downside to having this is it's great that it's connected here and we could just move it around. But if our text gets too long, it's going to shoot past the background. So now you could always do the stacked text, of course, which might be more appropriate. But if you want the background to expand, you have to go back over to the Fusion page, grab your ellipse, and then widen it out. So I'd need a little more height, a little more width, and go back. So it's kind of a pain, but you do have the added convenience of just dragging this one element around versus the stacked ones here. As you can see, you could just move each element. I think that's pretty good. And that's probably how I'll save that. Now you can also grab these two and right click and say new compound clip. You can name it, and then that'll save that as a consolidated clip. And here it is in our media pool. So if you wanted to just grab this and drop it down, you have another background clip just like this. And then if you needed to adjust it, you can always click on your clip, and you have two options. You can right click and say decompose in place using original or using clips only. And that sort of goes back to your default state. Or you could say open in timeline. It'll create an open timeline with this element's name, give you access to move things around, and then whatever changes you make in here will be reflected back on that element. So if you're using this in more than one place, and let's say you slid that over there, you grabbed your background, you slid that over there. As soon as you close it down, those are now in your timeline under this background node. But if you were to grab this again and use it in another spot further down your timeline, it's stuck with those options. So it's not as flexible as having this double stack version like we had here. That was probably be the most flexible option, is just dual stacking these. And you could always name it if you had reoccurring text that you needed to use, like same actors or same locations or something. All right. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys on the next video.